Hello, welcome to Chapter 5, Lesson 5, and we're going to be comparing and ordering rational numbers. So this is compare decimals and fractions. So we can compare and order rational numbers. So the real-world length is the lengths of several common types of insects as shown in the table. Which insect is the longest? Well, based on all of these, I kind of have one way I can do this is I can change them to decimals. If I change them to decimals, I'm going to know exactly what my largest numbers are and which ones are my smallest. And remember, my class, it is second trimester. You are allowed to use a calculator, so it's the numerator divided by the denominator. And the longest one is going to be my cricket. Number 2, shade each fraction strip to represent the lengths of a fire ant and a housefly. Which is longer, the fire ant or housefly? So I'm going to use housefly is going to be yellow. So it's 1/4. And my housefly will be blue. And that is... Okay, I'm sorry. Housefly is yellow. My fire ant will be blue. So this is 1/3. And housefly. So which one is longer? I'm going to say the third, which is the fire ant. How many of the insects are larger than 1/2 inch? Well, if I look to the side, I have to find the ones that are larger. So the mosquito, it's 1. My firefly, my cricket, and my green June beetle. So I'm going to say 4 insects. Order the lengths of housefly, a green June beetle, and a fire ant from the shortest to longest. Well, I'm glad I changed these all to decimals because then it makes it easier. So housefly is 1/4. Fire ant is... I forgot to put the bar notation. Fire ant's 333, and the green June beetle is the biggest. So my housefly is the smallest. And then fire ant is the middle. And then green June beetle is going to be my longest. So today we're going to be comparing decimals and fractions. So example 1. We have to do greater than, less than, or equal to make a true statement. So a negative 1 2/10 and a positive 8/10. Well, negative 1 2/10 and positive 8/10. So my negative numbers are always smaller than positive numbers. So this is going to be less than. Here, it says graph the decimals on a number line. So negative 1 4/10 and negative 1 25/100. My negative 1 25/100, because if I have to mark where 0 is, that's where 0 is. Negative 1 25/100 is closer to 0. So I'm going to say that one's larger. So that means 1 4/10 is going to be less than negative 1 25/100. So here, it says rename the fractions using the least common denominator. So since my denominators are different, I have to make sure they're the same. That's the only way I can compare those. The other option is to change them to decimals. So if I have them as the same denominators, so that's negative 6/16 and then negative 5/16. Now negative 5 is larger, so I'm going to say negative 6 is less than negative 5. Now I'm also going to use my calculator. So if I use my calculator, I have 3 divided by 8 equals 375. So it's negative 375. So negative 375 hundredths. And then if I do 5 divided by 16, that gives me 3125. Negative 3125. And same thing. Negative 375 thousandths is going to be less than negative 3,125 ten thousandths. Since for negative numbers, since 5/16 is closer to 0, that means that's going to be larger. So go ahead and try A, B, C, and D. So for A, I have a positive number and a negative number. So it's going to be, my positive number is going to be greater than. So 3 1/10 is greater than negative 3 7/10. For B, I have two negative numbers. This number here is closer to 0. So that's going to be larger. So negative 4 and 5, 4.5 is less than negative 4 and 49 hundredths. For C, since they both have the same denominator, I can just compare my numerators. 9 is less than 12. And for D, this is going to change to negative 8 over 10. And negative 7 over 10 is closer to 0, so that's going to be greater than negative 8 over 10. One thing I know that helps me is whenever I have two negative numbers, I just kind of do the opposite. I know for B, if they were both positive, it would be the opposite answer. Same with D. If they were both positive, it would be the opposite answer. So if that's a strategy that can help you, go ahead and use that strategy. So example 4, we have same thing, greater than, less than, or equal to. This time we have decimals and fractions. My recommendation is just to change the fraction to a decimal. So I have negative 8 over 15ths. That's 8 divided by 15. It's going to be a repeating decimal. So it's going to be negative 5, 3 with the bar notation. So my 5s are the same, so I go next and have the 3s. So since this is negative numbers, negative 51 hundredths is going to be larger than negative 53 hundredths. So this is going to end up being greater than. The other option is to put it on the graph, and negative 51 hundredths is closer to 0 because I know 0 is going to be on this side, and that's the other way. For 5, my apologies. For example 5, we have to do it from least to greatest. Like I said before, I strongly recommend changing them all to decimals, because I know this is going to be negative 288, and this is going to be negative 2 1/10. And then I can just do it from least to greatest. So this is going to be my least one here, and then my second least, and then my third least. And then they have the final answer down here. Negative 2 22 25ths, negative 2 46 hundredths, and negative 2 1/10. So go ahead and try the GATA, E, F, and G. Alright, so E, that's going to be equal to 5 divided by 8 is 625 thousandths. For F, 3 divided by 7 is 42 hundredths, in that range. It's going to be greater than. I just plug that in a calculator. For G, I changed them all to decimals, and then I found which one was the greatest to the least. So I got negative 7 and 17 hundredths, negative 7 and 13 twentieths, and negative 7 and 78 hundredths. So example 6, Mr. Plum's science class is growing plants under different conditions. The table shows the difference for the average for some students' plants. Order the differences from least to greatest. So same thing, I'm just going to change all of these to decimals to find out which one's the least and which one's the greatest. So from least to greatest, we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. and then input all the answers in their original forms here. When I say original forms, I mean, if you look at Leonara, I changed the decimal here, but the answer they used was the fraction decimal, or the fraction rational number. But that's the end of the video, so thank you for watching.